I've started with like the low level easy stuff that might be tedious to check manually, but is really quick to automate, and that's really improved the speed that we can test. And then also I run those every week before we release, just because it's easy to run automated tests, and so that gives us more confidence before we go to production.
Louis, super great to chat. Thanks for making time to connect today. Let's just start by understanding a little bit more about your background. What company are you currently working with? How long have you been engaged with them? And what does a typical day in the life for you look like these days?
Yeah, I'm a QA engineer. I work for Acres and acres.com. I've been here almost 4 years. A lot of my role is usually reviewing new features, front end and back end, writing manual tests as well as automated tests, and investigating bugs whenever those come up, mostly from our internal users that they collect from external users. And then managing and writing end-to-end tests and making sure we get reports to the team whenever we go to release a new set of features, making sure that everyone's aware of what's working, what's not, before we're comfortable releasing that out.
And what does Acres, or like, what do you guys work on with Acres and acres.com? What kind of product do you, or service do you actually make? And what kind of end users are you typically serving?
It's a kind of geospatial mapping tool, land management tool. We have competitive sales data, listings, mortgage data, parcel ownership data, as well as like soil, crop history, lots of insights, as well as hundreds of custom data layers at this point as well. We're kind of targeting brokers. Farmers use the tool as well, but large brokerages, enterprise clients, some banks, and lenders.
And it sounds like a pretty data intensive platform. Do the end users interact with it through some kind of web app or mobile app, something like that?
Yeah, so we have a mobile app as well as a web app. And that's most of our users interact through the front end through that. We also have a few APIs available for our enterprise clients where they can get some of that comp data or parcel data directly.
When you were describing your day in the life, it sounded pretty wide ranging. I'm curious, like, what does the QA team look like these days? Is it just you kind of hammering away, or do you have some folks working with you?
Over the past year or so, we've been building up the team. Right now, it's me, and then I have a QA analyst that reports to me full-time, and then a part-time QA analyst. We're all looking to expand to another QA intern as well. So I do kind of fall into taking over multiple roles, but as we add more to the team, I'm hoping to kind of focus more on automation and the kind of reporting and stuff like that.
And do you have anything established in terms of testing process these days? Like, do you have a well-established process that you're following, or is it kind of depend on the release, that sort of thing?
Our process is usually, what we try to do is we review a new feature, a new ticket when it comes through. When the devs have completed it, we try to write a manual test at that point, make sure the feature works. And then if that's good, at the end of the week, we'll run all those manual tests for all the new features going in, and then we'll release those. And then we try to run like a monthly end-to-end testing. That's our kind of process right now, and we'll go through all of our manual tests and automated tests. That's kind of new. We've tried that out for the past couple of months, and it's working all right. We still got a few kinks to work out, but that's kind of how we're going now.
What caused you to add that extra end-to-end layer monthly? Was there something in particular that happened, or just like, hey, we should really start doing this?
Yeah, we used to do releases every other week, and that kind of allowed us, we would do end-to-end testing every 2 weeks with every release, and that became increasingly more difficult to do as we added more tests, as we added more features. And it also just meant that, if a dev didn't complete a feature before we cut everything and moved it into staging, then they would have to wait another 2 weeks before that was released. So by releasing every week, it lets us move a little quicker. The business likes that. And then by pushing regression to every month, it lets QA focus on, we look closer at all the new features going in every week instead of having to worry about running full end-to-end testing. And so it let us balance that out a little better. And I think it's improved stuff, the new features going in, as well as just our test coverage monthly, because we can kind of focus on those better.
Dang, so y'all are on a weekly release schedule now. Are you working pretty closely with devs during that sprint cycle?
Yeah, we lots of communication back and forth. I mean, we sit right across from each other, so we're always just turning our chairs around and going over stuff with them. We try to review their tickets as quickly as possible so that they can turn around and fix any issues we have. Our kind of review process is the dev completes the work, QA reviews it, design reviews it, and then product reviews it. And we try to get all that feedback clumped together so the dev can address it at once instead of trying to address those three teams separately. But yeah, we're always in QA's in communication with devs, design, and product pretty heavily.
It sounds like things have been pretty dynamic. What kind of challenges have you faced as you've adapted to this new release schedule?
We've always had, the devs work with trunk-based development, so everything is merged into main, and we don't have feature branches, or we don't usually have feature branches. And so the difficulty there is when they work on a new feature, if it's not feature flagged, and it's the day we send everything to stage, it's going to stage no matter what, whether we've reviewed it or not. So the challenge is we need to make sure we know everything that's going into stage so that we can get it reviewed. And so we've set up some automations that will flag every ticket that made it into the environment. So we make sure we review all those. And that's going to be a challenge. A long time ago when I first started, we didn't do trunk-based development, and we had feature branches for everything. And from a QA perspective, that was nice because I approved the feature before it was merged into our dev branch. And so that means I knew everything that was going into stage. But the problem with that was from a dev perspective, it caused a ton of merge conflicts. And as the dev team grew, the merge conflicts got worse and worse. And so that's why we switched to trunk-based development. It's been a while now since we've been working off of that. And so it's been more challenging from a QA and product perspective, but I think it's allowed the dev team to move a lot quicker. And so overall for the team, it was beneficial.
You mentioned starting to automate more too. Is that related to the faster release cycles going on, or has that been something you've been trying to work on for a while?
That's been something I've been trying to work on for a while. And as we've kind of built out the QA team some more and gotten the full-time help, it's allowed me to work on those tests more. I automate some, back-end tests and then a bunch of our front-end tests. And I've started with the low-level easy stuff that might be tedious to check manually, but is really quick to automate. And that's really improved the speed that we can test. So it's helped with our end-to-end testing. And then also I run those every week before we release, just because it's easy to run automated tests. And so that gives us more confidence before we go to production.
How intensive a project has that been from a tooling perspective? Was it pretty easy to get stuff going from an automated perspective? Are you running in pipelines? What's that looked like? Or has it been kind of its own project to get all that up and going?
It wasn't too bad getting started. I use Playwright, which is a test automation framework. I love it. Super simple to get started with that. The documentation is great. But right now I just run them on my local machine really. So I manually, start the tests, run them before release. Our DevOps team has been working on for a while to get those running automatically. The goal is to run them with every, merge to main so that the devs know if they broke something and then they can fix the test right there. So that's been an ongoing effort, but right now it's been working for me. I don't mind running them. We get good coverage with them. So
And you're able to run it. I mean, you're able to run them quick enough on your local machine too. It doesn't sound like it's an overnight process or something like that. Playwright's known to be pretty snappy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it only takes a few minutes to run them. I do have some SEO tests where we go and it checks like all of our URLs and make sure it's got the necessary, elements for SEO. And those do take a little longer, but really it's not too bad. It's not more than a few minutes. So
from the last year or two, it sounds like as you've adapted to the new sprint cycle, things have sped up. You're working on some new automation projects. Are there any particular successes or accomplishments that you'd highlight?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot. One I would say is we've recently focused on adding some automated tests for mobile. And so that's a completely different, a whole other set of problems. We've been using Maestro for that. And I think it's been a little slower than the web automation. At least for me, I think testing a mobile app is a little more difficult than testing a website. But I think getting that started last quarter and kind of this quarter, our goal to expand those has been really, really amazing.
Are y'all doing cross-device testing? Have you figured out that part of it? Or is it even just starting with like kind of a blanket having some level of mobile testing is enough for now?
Any mobile testing is good for now. We run them on iOS and Android. Maestro allows you to do that. But one of the challenges with that is we do run into the test being pretty flaky. So it'll pass once on one device, fail on another, then you run it again and it flips and it fails on the other one and passes on one. So trying to make those tests as stable as possible and figure out, is this a test problem or is there actually a feature that's just that flaky?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. That's one of the classic issues with test automation in general, but can be particularly challenging when you're doing cross-platform like that. A lot of folks in the QA industry are talking about AI, and I'm curious if that's on your radar as well, or is that something you're kind of waiting to see if it matures a little bit more before y'all dip your toes in? What's been your take on AI so far?
Yeah, I think AI is pretty cool. It is a little scary how good it is at some things. We'll have to see, how advanced it gets. I've been using, our company has a Gemini subscription. So I've been using Gemini. I'll paste like a function in there and I'm like, how can I improve this? Or how could I, if I wanted to do this, what are some options? And it's been pretty helpful just for simple stuff like that. And then more recently, our tech org has kind of been pushing to use AI more in the whole development process. So we're trying out Cursor and Claude. And Claude's pretty cool. I run it in the terminal and I'm just like, here's the whole project. What are some things I can improve? And it'll spit out a list of things and it can even suggest code for you and add it all by itself. And so that's been pretty interesting. It's good at some things, it's bad at other things. It still needs you to hold its hand quite a bit, but if it keeps improving, that'll be pretty interesting to see.
So primarily around improving your automation suite, sounds like kind of code related stuff as opposed to like generating manual tests for you to run when you're starting that manual process for new features, right? It doesn't sound like you're really using it to replace the manual test case side. It's more to augment some of the development related projects. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, yeah, that's correct. I think it would be interesting. I'll have to kind of explore using it more with manual tests. I haven't tried that out. But yeah, that could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It'll be interesting to see. There's a lot that it's promising to do. And there's a lot of folks who are definitely starting to like be able to unlock some value from it. But there's also a lot of folks I've talked to who are like, yeah, I don't know. It's still a lot of hype for now.
Yeah, I agree. And for other things, like I tried just this morning, I asked it to add some test IDs to a feature in our front end repository. And the amount of like questions it asked me and all this stuff I had to go through, I was like, it probably would have been faster for me to just add these manually. But for other things, like it adds it so quickly. So
it seems like there's a bit of a heuristic there that's going to match what you're already doing around deciding tests to automate or not, though, too. You mentioned earlier, like there are some tests that are just super quick to automate. You can trust them. Like it's not worth doing manually. You know how to automate them quickly. I'm curious if it'll be kind of a similar approach as AI continues to mature. You'll just know like, oh yeah, AI is really good for that, but not worth spending the time on or cycles on for something else. Is that kind of the feel that you're getting so far with the experimentation you've done?
Yeah, exactly. I think as you kind of figure out what the tool is good for and you use it for those exact situations, and then you can't use a hammer for everything, so you got to pick up a drill sometimes.
Well, Lewis, this conversation's been awesome. I really appreciate just getting some of the insight from like what you've been working on day to day. Maybe one last question and then we can part ways for the day. I'm curious, given all that experience you've had the last 4 years, you're starting to grow the team, you're starting to automate a little bit more, you're playing with how to leverage AI to make your processes a bit more efficient. Do you have any particular tips or advice that you might share with other QA engineers like you, stuff that you've learned or something you might suggest like, hey, this really worked for us, that you might share as kind of the last note here before we wrap up?
Overall, no matter what product you're working on or what team you're on, I think as a QA, learning your product really well and becoming an expert in what your product does is very helpful. Just whenever you get a new feature, kind of knowing immediately what does this affect, what else do I need to check, learning what the high priority features are, what are your users using mostly, what features do you need to keep close eyes on. I think that's really how you add value to your team and how you become a very important resource.
That's awesome. That's super helpful. Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been great to chat, and wish you and the team best of luck as you start a new sprint with this new week.
Thank you. Yes, it was great.